Good morning, everyone. And thank you, Hans. I invited Hans to come here months ago, in case you didn't hear, and not knowing that this would be our last Sunday in this space. And I really was inspired to talk about letting go. And I remembered that Hans was coming, and I remembered his song about letting go. And so I thought, wow, Spirit kind of works things out, it seems like. It's kind of neat when you just are able to do exactly what he was talking about, isn't it? And so I want to talk a little bit more about that today, about the title that came to me is The Art of Letting Go, because it is an art, isn't it? And it really, I think, is a big part of our spiritual unfoldment, that really a lot of the things that we talk about and work with in terms of spiritual growth have to do with letting go. And I was thinking about this and in my meditation, and one of the things I got is that I remember, many of you have read this, I'm sure, that what's the number one fear that people have?
Public speaking.
Public speaking. Isn't that interesting? Number one fears of public speaking. Death was number 5, which is kind of interesting. The fifth most, when they did the surveys about what people fear the most, number 5 was dying. And I don't remember the other ones, but number 1 was the fear of dying. And I really take some time to think about that and reflect on that. And I wondered if it really is the fear of dying, or if it really is, I wonder if it really is the fear of public speaking or the fear of dying. I wonder if it's all the same fear. You hear what I'm saying? And what I mean by this is, I think underneath all that is really the fear of losing. When you're public speaking, people who have a fear of public speaking, the fear they have is a loss of face, a fear of rejection, a fear of losing something that they see as themselves in some way. I work with people on helping them to overcome the fear of public speaking, and this is what comes up over and over again, is that somehow they're going to be seen as other than they see themselves, and that somehow that they will be rejected for that. And so as I was thinking about that and reflecting on that, I really had this thought about, most of us are really living life with these underlying anxieties on some level. And at the heart of them, I think, is the fear of simply losing, that we're afraid we're going to lose something. If we get up in front of people, we're afraid we're going to lose our dignity. I've done that so many times, it doesn't bother me so much anymore. No. Not true. I still got to get nervous sometimes. But, and when we think about the fear of dying, the reality is we really are afraid that we're going to lose something of ourself, aren't we? Well, we know on a spiritual level that that's actually impossible, because the truth of us, the self of us, is ongoing, is eternal. It is the truth of our being, and it goes on forever. And yet, the human part of us, we're afraid of losing that human part of ourselves, aren't we? And that we are afraid of losing our ego consciousness. Now, ego consciousness is really that's what we believe ourselves to be. And so that's what the ego really does, is it tries to protect that belief of who we think ourselves to be. Well, I came across this quote from Sherry DeWitt. She says, as important as hanging on is, knowing when to let go is just as important. And we're here today to really let go of some of our past, our history, to let go of this space so that we can move into and create a new space. It's always an adventure when you're in that change process, right? And that's what we're doing. We're in the process of moving into something that is even more exciting, I think, and more greater possibilities for us. And yet, I think I have to say that I still have, I like a lot of things about this place, don't you? Yes. There's a lot of wonderful things about meeting here that we're going to miss. Wouldn't you agree? I was thinking about this idea of change, and I love this story. There was a farmer that required an extra truck driver for his harvest, and he hired Dave, despite his lack of experience, and he advised him to pick a landmark so that he could remember where to turn onto the field that they were going to be doing the harvesting. And so on the first day, things ran really smoothly and did pretty fine until his third trip out into the field, and Dave got lost. And the farmer said, well, didn't I tell you to pick a landmark or something that would help you remember where to turn? And he said, well, yeah, I did, but the cows moved. I love that story. I've told it a couple of times, but I always get a laugh because I think we all kind of know what we're talking about. Things are always changing. Things are always moving. And in a way, we're kind of a moving target. Our move this week, in some ways, is a bit of a moving target because there's still some unknowns. But as far as we know, everything is on track and we're moving, and we're going to go moving ahead as though everything is already in line, and we're going to make the assumption that it is until you hear otherwise, right? But this week we're going with the flow, and we're trusting that we're going to be in the new space starting next week. I also remembered you know, when you go to a swimming pool sometimes, I remember seeing this picture of a sign for a swimming pool, and it listed all the rules of the swimming pool. You know, the rules they have for the swimming pool, you know, don't run, no pushing, no shoving, don't throw your trash down, pick it up, and all these kind of things. And at the very bottom, it says, do not do anything that begins with the words, hey guys, watch this. I love that one. I've probably done that a few times, actually. But, the spiritual growth really is an adventure, and the big part of the adventure is that there is some unknown, and it is also part of the adventure is the letting go process. Spiritual growth is about letting go. It's about letting go of those things that no longer are part of our being, that are no longer serving us, the things that are no longer the truth of our being. They're no longer the constructs of what we've created ourselves to be. And it's also, though, letting go of many things that we find have been blessings. Sometimes we need to let go of those things that have blessed us in order that we can experience even greater blessings. Spiritual growth is not so much a matter of obtaining something new as it is letting go and moving into an awareness or consciousness, as it is a series of surrenders in which we let go of identifying with the beliefs or the errors or the things that have bound us and limited us in our lives. Our spiritual growth is like peeling layers of an onion. You've heard me say this before. We peel layers of an onion. Sometimes when you peel an onion, you get tears, right? And each layer that we peel, though, of the onion, it's unlike an onion. When we peel more, we don't get less. We actually get more in terms of spirituality. The more we peel off, the more of our essence and our true nature comes through. Thank you for the water. You and I, thank you very much. Nice sticky floors, I'll tell you. We're not going to slip or slide very much here, are we? So you and I are created in the image and after the likeness of God, after the likeness of the divine, which to me really says that you and I are part of that creative process. We are an aspect of that. And so removing everything that we have created or attached ourselves to that doesn't reflect that image is really the essence of what we're doing, isn't it? It's really letting go of those things that not really are reflecting more of our unique divine nature, our potential, our possibilities in life. Just as a butterfly goes through a transformation by letting go of being a caterpillar, you and I have to be willing to let go of who we are now in order to really experience the possibilities of what we can be and what we can express. We have to be willing to let go of the essence of our being now so that we can experience the essence of our being that is already there in potential and possibility. I came across this story, and I've told this story, and you'll hear this story through the years from me, and it's a great story because there's a novice came to a spiritual master, and the novice had actually been around and been traveling to all of these different spiritual teachers and learning all these amazing, wonderful lessons, and had really done a lot with a lot of different teachers. And he came to this one spiritual master and was telling him about all of the different levels of meditation he had attained, and all of the learning that he had done. And the whole time that he's talking, the master is sitting there pouring a cup of tea in front of him. And he went on and was talking and talking and talking about how the different masters he'd studied with, and all of the schools he'd been to, and all of the things, the practices he had mastered and things he had done. And the whole time, the master was just sitting there pouring the cup of tea. And eventually the cup of tea spills over and pours out and spills on his feet. He says, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And he says, "You're like this cup of tea. You're overflowing. There's too much. Go and empty your cup, and then you can come and study with me." I think sometimes you and I don't know about you, but I'm a bit of a bookaholic. You know what I'm talking about? I like to read a lot. I like to read a lot about spirituality. But sometimes I find that I get so much that I need to stop and stop reading. As Emily Cady says, stop reading so many books. And go and then allow some of those things that I have already learned on one level to really be a part of my nature, to really begin to be incorporated into my being. And in order to do that, I have to certainly begin to let go of some of the things that I've been holding on to, and let go of the things that I thought were the truth of my being. Well, today I want us to really honor and think about letting go, but I also want us to think about the blessing of what we can and do take with us when we go through a transformation. We let go of those things that don't serve us anymore, but we also take with us those qualities and characteristics that do bless us and bring us into another experience of possibility in life, of upliftment, of great possibilities of life and of health and of love and abundance. And part of our ceremony and process today is I would like us to do something. And while I'm going to continue to talk a little bit about the process of letting go, and also the process of expanding and growing and learning and unfolding. So while I'm doing this, what I'd like to do is I have brought with me today a little bundle of sage. And I like this tradition, the Native American tradition, is when you move into a new place or a new space, it's valuable to then go and burn some sage in that place. And it's a purifying ritual. It's a way of actually helping to change the energy of our new space. And so we're going to do that, and I have this sage that we're going to take with us to the new space. But before we do that, what I'd like to invite you to do is I'm going to pass it around and ask you to just pass it from person to person. Now, it's still in plastic, but don't worry, it'll go through the plastic. Your blessings will go through, I promise you. What I'm going to invite you to do is I want you to think about the qualities and the characteristics that you have appreciated about being here in the American Legion Hall, and the feelings that you've experienced here. You know, the love and the connection. And I'll even give an example. Julie this morning shared one of the things that she will miss about this space are those amazing, beautiful trees that we have out here. And I said, well, what is it about that really spoke to you? And she says, well, it's just beauty and nature. And I said, that's great. So we are going to take that energy of beauty and nature with us. And what's the feeling that beauty and nature gives you? Well, it gives you a feeling of peace and what was the other? Peace and serenity. And so as we're passing this around, what I'd like to ask you to do is feel that energy of beauty, of peace, of serenity, any qualities like that you have experienced here in this space. I invite you symbolically to put that into the sage. And then on our dedication Sunday, we're going to take that sage and we're going to light it and we're going to let that energy escape into our new space. Will you join me in that? Let me pass that around. And actually, I'm going to start with Julie and let her pass it from there, since it's her birthday. So we come at spiritual growth. It's important to recognize we come at spiritual growth not as a war, because the more we resist, whatever we resist persists. And so it's important to recognize that as we're going through changes, and that attacking or criticizing or blaming or judging or trying to force things to be the way that we think they're supposed to be. Anybody ever done that? Yeah, it's part of our ego consciousness, and that is one of the ways that we sometimes react to those things that we don't think are necessarily the way we think they're supposed to be. But we don't necessarily grow through that. What we do is we recognize that things may not be exactly the way we think they're supposed to be, then we listen to how we can then make them better. Not necessarily by attacking them or judging them or criticizing them, but by becoming a part of that creative process that says, what's a greater possibility here? What's something even more beautiful that we could do? What's something even more loving? What's a way that we can be even more loving in our lives? Our ego consciousness only lets us, will only let go of the things and the limiting beliefs that we have when it feels that it's safe to do so. Wouldn't you agree? And when there's something better to take its place, for that matter. And that's why love is really the key to our spiritual growth. It's the key to our understanding. It's a key to our transformation, because love is at the essence of surrendering. You often hear me talk about the importance of loving ourselves, how important it is and why it's important. You see, without a healthy sense of self-love, the ego consciousness cannot and will not let go. If the ego consciousness feels threatened in any way, the automatic response of the ego consciousness is to hold on, isn't it? And the reality is that if there's something, do you know that our spirit, interestingly enough, never holds on to anything? Think about that for a moment. When we're truly in our spiritual nature, we never hold on to anything, because we know that there's no such thing as loss. There's no such thing as losing. Our true spiritual nature knows that there's always only love and blessing and greatness and beauty and magnificence. So we can pretty much tell when we're in our ego consciousness. Wouldn't you agree? Anybody? Yeah. So if you're criticizing yourself because you're holding on to something, you can let that go, because that's the ego also. The ego likes to criticize itself. It's kind of funny. The ego mind criticizes the ego mind. But their true spiritual nature simply knows that we can allow life to be, and we can allow life to move us into other possibilities. When we feel loved, we feel safe, we're willing to experience new experiences, we let down that protective barrier, and we're able to be more open. We're able to experience the new and the good. We're open more to the presence and the power of God in our lives. So, I want to read to you this poem. Before I do, let me read 1 John tells us that perfect love casts out fear. So, as we love ourselves more, we're willing and able to put down the barriers, the defensiveness, the fronts, the persona. We're willing to let go of who we think we're supposed to be, so that the truth of our nature can be revealed to us and through us in our lives. So I came across this poem some years ago, and I've read it before. I'll probably read it again throughout the years, because it just says a lot. The poem is Let Go. To let go does not mean to stop caring. It means I can't do it for someone else. To let go is not to cut myself off. It's the realization I can't control another. To let go is not to enable, but to allow learning from natural consequences. To let go is to admit powerlessness, which means the outcome is not in my hands. To let go is not to try to change or blame another. It's to make myself the most of myself. To let go is not to judge, but to allow another to be human. To let go is not to be in the middle arranging all the outcomes, but to allow others to affect their destinies. To let go is not to be protective, it is to permit another to face their own realities. To let go is not to deny, but to accept. To let go is not to nag, scold, or argue, but to search out my own shortcomings and correct them. To let go is not to adjust everything to my desires, but to take each day as it comes and cherish myself in it. To let go is not to criticize and regulate anybody, but to try and become what I dream to be. And to let go is not to regret the past, but to grow and live for the future. To let go is to fear less and to love more. By my favorite author, Anonymous. Well, letting go, I think, is really, really, in many ways, the essence of our spiritual process. It really is about letting go of those things that no longer serve us, that really are no longer a part of who and what we know we can and are willing to be. We're letting go of being in this space, but that's because we know that we're moving into a place that really will serve us even more, and that we can have lots of fun in, not only on Sunday, but throughout the week. So, yes, exactly. So in this celebration, we're appreciating all of the beautiful qualities that we've experienced here. We're taking those with us and letting go of those things that are not really serving us. Now, maybe the sticky floors have service. I haven't figured that out yet, but I think we will probably release those as far as I'm concerned. So thank you for being a part of this, and thank you for helping to bless our new space even before we get there. And thank you for the opportunity to bless this wonderful Legion Hall and the good that it's been in our lives. Let's go ahead and move into our meditation time. You going to sing or you going to play? Yeah. All right. All right, let's move into a comfortable place. Let's take a nice deep breath. And as you breathe in and out, just imagine what life would be like if you couldn't breathe out. You just kept breathing in. And just know that just as important as it is to let go of each breath, it's also important to let go of those experiences, those qualities, those characteristics that are not really serving us anymore, so that we can expand and grow and express even more of our divine nature. Breathing in, I accept. And breathing out, I release. Breathing in, I allow. Breathing out, I let go. Just allow yourself to move into that quiet stillness, that place within you where you know and you feel that connection. That connection with divine love. That connection with the essence of the creative process that is always flowing a greater good into and through our lives, through our hearts, our minds, our consciousness. Give thanks for the opportunity and the ability to shift, to change and be changed by that love, by always turning back to that. And knowing whatever difficulties or challenges that we might face, whatever things that we are holding on to from our past, resisting in our future, recognizing that our spiritual self, our essence, has already let it go and is trusting and knowing something more beautiful and wonderful and loving and peaceful and healthy and vibrant and abundant is already manifesting. Breathe that into your heart space. Feel the energy of gratitude, both for the letting go and for the blessing. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Blessed Spirit. Take a nice deep breath. Let your awareness come back into this room, this time, this place, giving thanks for the space of the American Legion Hall and for the wonderful qualities that we take with us into our new church home. Thank you, God. And so it is. Amen.